Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to use arrays using C#. If you haven't watched Arrays Part 1, go watch that video now because that'll give you some background on arrays and it'll help you understand better what we're actually trying to do here. So in this example what I've done is I've created a Windows console application which just dumps its output to a little window which we used to call the DOS prompt, now we call it the command prompt. Either way it's just going to run in a little window and it won't have a nice fancy interface, but that's okay. So to create an array of integers, I need to first say that I want an integer array. There we go. If I wanted an array of strings, I could say I want a string array of strings. If I want an array of booleans, right, I can have an array of booleans. I can have an array of anything I want. So let's, just for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to have an array of integers, and I'll call it numbers. Okay, so there, what I've done now is I've created a reference to an array of integers called numbers. So this reference, as it stands right now, is null. It's not pointing to anything. If I try to use numbers, it's going to blow up at me. So what I need to do is assign it, actually allocate or create or instantiate a new array. So how do I do that? I say new int, and then here inside the angle brackets I specify how many numbers I want, right? So I'll just, for the sake of this demo, I'll say 10. So now I have an array of 10 numbers. Now what I can do is I can go put numbers into the array and I can read numbers out. So let's say numbers sub. Now let's put something in the first cell, which I hope you remember is index 0, as array indexes start at 0. Let's say we'll put 999 in there. There we go. Okay. So numbers sub 0 equals 999. So if I look in this array, I should actually see that numbers is the first element is 999. All right. Let's put another one in. Numbers sub equals 5 sub 9. I'm just throwing some random numbers in the array here. Okay, now what if I do this? Numbers sub 10. I hope you guys are, alarm bells are going off right now. I hope you say, oh, you can't do that because you have an array of 10 things and the indexes go from 0 to 9. So 10 is actually outside the array boundary, so I can't do that. All right, so just to prove to you that this works, I'm going to use a loop to print out the contents of the array. So I'm going to use a for each loop, and I'll say for each int, and I'll call it I in numbers. There we go. So for every integer, which I will temporarily refer to as I, in the array called numbers, do whatever is inside these squiggly braces. So it's going to, if I have 10 things, it's going to loop 10 times. And then let's just say console.writeLine. And I'll just print out, can I just do this? I. Now let's run it and see what happens. Now, I've had this problem before with the console windows. I have to put an empty statement here, and then I'm going to set a breakpoint so the debugger will stop when it reaches that point. So let's see what's in there. Okay, let's pop up our little console window. Okay, so there are numbers. Let me enlarge this for you a little bit here so you can see it. How do I change my font size? Ah, it looks terrible. Looks terrible. Properties, I apologize profusely. There we go. Hopefully you can see that a little bit better. So the first thing in the array is 999, the second thing in the array is 5, and the last one is 25. Okay, so not terribly exciting. We've created an array of numbers. We have put stuff in there, and then we've taken stuff out. But notice how easy it was to manipulate everything in that array. I just have 4 lines of code here. I just have a loop. I say loop over the array and do something to everything in the array. If I had these guys as separate variables, I'd have to do 10 separate operations just to print stuff out. So if you put stuff in arrays, you loop over the array and then you tell the stuff in the array to go do something, right? Okay, so let's look at another example. I'm going to delete all of this out. I have created a class called monster. It is in this class right now. It is a very simple class. It does not do very much. So I need to create an array of monsters. So let's create a monster array called monsters, and I have to assign it to a new monster. Let's say of 4 monsters. There we go. Okay, I've now created an array of 4 monsters. Now, again, as before, I have not put any monsters into the array, but I've created slots for them. I've created the array. Here I've created the reference. Now I've actually allocated the space for the array, but now let's go create some monsters. So say monster sub-0 equals new monster. And the monster takes a message that he prints out. Okay, and now I'll just cut and paste a bunch of times here. Whoops. So I'll create a monster in index 1, and his thing will be boo, roar. I think my insert is not working here. Monster 2 will say, I don't know, chomp. Now, actually, this would be this would be a good place to use a loop too. If I want to create monsters, I could loop over the array and allocate a new monster for every cell in the array. That would be a great way to use arrays. A great use of loops and arrays. Loops and arrays just sort of kind of go together. They work great together. Okay, so now I've created a monster array. Every monster should say something different. And now I'm going to use my loop again for each monster m. I'll refer to my monster as m in monsters. And what does the monster do? I'm going to pop over to the monster class. He has a function called say something. Kind of lame, but okay. So now I'll take monster or m dot say something. So the monster has a say something function, and I should have called it scare or something. Yeah, let's just do that. I'll rename it now. Scare. And let's go to the monster class and rename this to be scare. Save it. Go back to my program. Now I have to set a breakpoint so the debugger will stop. Now let's run this and see what it does. Oh, just 1 minute while I debug this. Oh, there's my problem. Extra semicolon. Okay, there we go. So the monster now has a function called scare. What I've done here is I've created a bunch of monsters. I'm now going to loop over the array, and I'm going to tell every monster in the array to do the scare function. So let's do that now and see what happens. Okay, so let's pull up our window. So it says roar, boo, chomp, and growl, right? So we created 4 monsters. They each have a different sound that they make. We loop over the monsters, and we tell each monster in the array, go do something, right? So if you're thinking in the back of your head, hey, that's great for a game engine. I have a bunch of things in my game. I loop over the list. I loop over the array, and I tell everything in the game to go update itself, and I tell everything in the game to go draw itself, then gold star for you, because that's where we're headed for this. This is going to be the basis for our game engine. So if you have any questions about this, please ask. But again, I hope this all makes sense. Just remember that you have to create your array, and then you have to actually allocate space for it, right, using the new operator, and then you have to go initialize every cell in the array. So if you have any questions on this, just please ask.